What advice do you have for Gen Zers?
I'm actually in love with Gen Z. It's one of my favorite generations.
The space just seems to be getting bigger and bigger.
They've grown up with a magic wand in their hand that they can push a button and stuff happens. Why didn't you go to Vegas? Same dadgum deal, man. It's like a cult.
I'm sure you hear it a lot more than I do, but a lot of grumblings on it's tough to buy a house now, interest rates are high. What advice do you have for Gen Zers? A lot of them seem, how do I say this? A lot of them seem to think that it's impossible to be able to afford a home and to get ahead financially in today's economy.
You know, I'm actually in love with Gen Z. It's one of my favorite generations. We've got about 450 of them on our team.
Wow.
And they are they do share one characteristic with the millennials. They're very bifurcated, meaning they're either awesome or they suck. There's no middle ground. They're not posers. Mm-hmm. Gen Z's really not posers. They're really not. They don't do facade. They've grown up with a magic wand in their hand that they can push a button and stuff happens. They've grown up being able to answer any question instantly. They've grown up with influencers that aren't real, that haven't earned the right to influence. And so they're very careful. They're wise beyond their years in that sense. And so what we end up with is the ones we end up talking to in the money space. I'm talking to ridiculous 22-year-olds that are calling in that have, this guy called me the other day, he's got $150,000 saved. And he's 22 years old. I'm like, how the freak did you do that, man? I couldn't do that when I was 22. I borrowed it, but I couldn't do it. This is, they're very impressive, very serious-minded. And then there's another group that's entitled and victim-based. Mm-hmm. And they're like, capitalism has failed me, no bullcrap. But, there's kind of been that in every generation. There's always a group of entitled whiners, and there's victims, and there's always the ones that are victors. And there's always a percentage of each. So, but anyway, the overall answer is that I give to folks that are struggling with the ability to afford life or to afford to buy a home, those kinds of things, is you're making the mistake of thinking that because something today is your situation, that it's going to be your situation tomorrow. Life is not a still shot. It's not a single frame. It's a film strip. And 100% chance the next frame is going to be different than the last frame and the next frame. And you're going to go through this thing. Because if when I went bankrupt and I was in my 20s, if I had said, okay, that's the definition of Dave, now that is my identity, I'm an idiot. I would have been still sitting there, right? But instead I go, okay, no, wait, that's just where I am today. That doesn't necessarily define tomorrow. And so maybe today you can't afford a house with current interest rates and your salary, your income. That does not mean that's the case tomorrow. Interest rates will change, house prices will go up, and hopefully your income will go up. And maybe you need to adjust where you live. Because when I started the radio show 33 years ago, there was a large number of people that could not afford to live in downtown Manhattan in New York City. Mm-hmm. 33 years later, there's a large number of people that can't afford to live in downtown Manhattan, some of the most expensive real estate in the world. You can't live in Silicon Valley and make minimum wage today. You couldn't 20 years ago. You can't live in San Diego and buy a home, which would be double the national median average on homes, if you live there making entry level and you throw boxes at Costco. You can't do it mathematically. By the way, you've never been able to do it. So you're going to choose to live somewhere else or do something different. And when you make those choices, the frames change and you're going to be okay. But you have to say, instead of I'm going to sit here and whine and I'm going to be a victim of the circumstances, I'm going to control the controllables, which is what I make, where I live, And what am I doing to better myself so that I make more and choose to live in a place that I can buy a house? I had a couple on my radio show do a debt-free scream yesterday. They paid off their home at 37 years old. He is a middle school math teacher and she is a stay-at-home mom. How in the world did they do that? They live in a town that is in the middle of nowhere in Kansas. It's outside of Wichita, which means there's nothing there but groundhogs, right? Prairie dogs,
Sounds
right?
like where I grew up.
I said, what's your home worth? $125,000. And they paid off their home. But he's a middle school math teacher, makes $65,000 a year. His wife stays at home with the kids. And they've chosen to live in that location for whatever reason. They may have started there. I don't know how long they were there. I didn't get the full history and bio on the family, but they did a debt-free scream. They're 37 years old and have a paid-off house. But they're not sitting in the middle of San Diego going, oh, I make $65,000 as a middle school math teacher, and middle school math teachers are underpaid, so I can't buy a house. No, you doofus, you're sitting in the wrong place with the wrong set of numbers. You've got to change something here. And when you change, then you'll go on to the next frame, and you'll be just fine. So make more, move, both. Wait on interest rates to come down, save some money, pile up some money, get ready for the market to slow down, pick up, whatever the market's going to do. 100% chance that it's going to be different 5 years from today.
What do you think about crypto? I mean, I've heard you speak on crypto. You hate it. I don't know if that's changed at all. I mean, I believe the Trump administration just put some into the reserve, Bitcoin, Cardano, Ethereum, and is it XRP?
Yep.
And I'm just curious. That the space just seems to be getting bigger and bigger and evolving, and more people are taking it seriously. I was just curious.
I think it's going to continue to get bigger, and I think it's going to continue to get better, and it's going to continue to stabilize. I mean, it was a volatile Wild Wild West crap show for a long time, and it kind of still is, really. But it's not nearly as bad as it was when we first started talking about the subject. So I think it's getting better. It's getting more sophisticated. It's probably, therefore, getting safer. But here, even when it stabilizes and becomes more normalized, so to speak, and it's got a little track record to it, and you can look back and go, okay, the last 15 years, here's what it's done, not the last 15 days. Then you still got to say, okay, what do I want to invest in? And what happens with people with gold or crypto or a lot of other things is they confuse the concepts of speculating versus investing. And that's why I've come out so hard on crypto, because I have people calling and saying, I'm not doing investing, I'm investing in crypto, which is an oxymoron. You can't. The only thing you could do in crypto is to speculate. The only thing you can do in gold is to speculate. Speculating is a short-term play. Because if you look at a long-term play on something that doesn't have a track record, crypto, you can't look at a long-term play. You're really, gambling is here. Speculating is I'm putting some money in, playing with this. I think I might make some money. But I'm really not thinking 40 years. I'm not thinking 25 years. I'm not thinking I want to retire from this, but this is speculating. Even if you're a home builder and you build a home that doesn't have a buyer, they call it a spec home. They're speculating. It's a short-term play. They didn't build a rental property they're going to keep for 25 years. They built a piece of inventory that they want to turn right now into money. So speculating is short-term. Investing is over here is long-term. They're not the same thing. If you want to speculate, which would not be you're not betting the farm. You're not betting your quality of life. You're not betting your wealth building portfolio on it. I've got friends that are worth $100 million and they've got, they put $1 million in crypto. But if they burned $1 million in the middle of their kitchen floor, they won't miss it, ratio-wise. That's speculating, and that's a proper view of that. If you want to do that, I'm not going to yell at you about it. But the reason I've come down so hard on it in the public eye is because I got people not putting money in their 401k and good mutual funds. They're not buying a house. Instead, they're putting 100% of everything they have in the middle of the roulette wheel. And that's stupid. That's just ridiculous. You wouldn't do that with anything that doesn't have a long, wonderful track record. And generally where you want to be with investments, what Buffett talks about is true. I want an investment that is creating wealth, not changing in price. There's a difference. So when Home Depot stock goes up or Apple stock goes up, it's because they made a profit. It's because they put products in the marketplace. There was wealth created. When crypto goes up or gold goes up, it's just because somebody else wanted it more. It's not creating anything. It's what's called a commodity. And so you speculate on commodities. If you wanted to buy futures in corn, or if you remember the old movie with Eddie Murphy, Trading Places, right? Or frozen orange juice futures or something stupid was that what that was. It's kind of funny. But, if you want to play if you want to day trade in stocks, that's speculating. It's a short-term play, and it's just right over here next to gambling. It's not what you would do for your long-term, and so it should be money that you could set fire to.
Okay.
And you'd be okay with it. If you do that, then you can talk about, okay, how does Bitcoin work? What is the actual chain? How's the whole thing? Yeah, sure, I get all that. That's not the issue. The issue is I talk to 26-year-olds who go, I've invested everything I have in Bitcoin, and it's it's $50,000, and I don't have anything else but that. Well, why didn't you go to Vegas? Same dadgum deal, man. I mean, if you're pretty good at Texas Hold'em, you probably got as good a shot as you do at Bitcoin. So, it's going to be okay. But I mean, if you chart Bitcoin and you don't see risk, you're dumb, because it's all over the freaking world, and that tells you it's a highly volatile, short-term play, and you're trying to ride this thing out. It's got a cool factor to it because it's technology, and it's a fad, and everybody wants to be in on it and all that kind of stuff. And the funny thing is, in my world, I get so much hate because these guys, it's like a cult.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.